Hello ladies and gentlemen, the video I am honored to present to you today promises to be a little useful for your brain. How are you guys today? If you are well, let's start this happy story. Warning, content with some points may make you feel culturally inappropriate as it contains actionable and fairly adult content. So please do not allow young children to view this content, thanks. What do you think of an action story that incorporates adult content? To me, it has to be a story about a strong beauty. Great, I found that story to tell you. If you don't find it appealing, comment below and I'll improve the content next time. Of course, you need to hit the follow channel button. It was the beautiful Lee Hannah with a strong hot body, an innocent face enough to deceive all enemies, and top-notch fighting techniques. We'll start this from the hot scene of the two main characters here. Lee Hannah was pushing Julio hard to the floor, her hands around his neck. Julio didn't resist. He couldn't resist the temptation of the sexy black dress girl facing him closely, the sweet and familiar fragrance making him lose control. Julio groaned sadly, "Hey! What the hell are you doing? Get out! At least, if you leave, I won't put you down, like a wild animal." Lee Hannah firmly approached him a little more. "Don't worry, I can lose blood to death, but this can't kill me. Now, just hug me." Her kiss detonated their limiting bombshell. Julio frantically embraced her, kissed her, forcefully removed the clothing from her body. Passion began, the sweat on Julio's forehead dripping down, their bodies now wet and hot, as if shoveling a ton of coal with a shovel. Lee Hannah whispered beneath him, "Why did we turn out like this? Why am I more afraid of losing you than my life?" Her hand gripped the back of the man who was vigorously repeating the same movements earlier, afraid that if they didn't hold on tight they would be gone forever. Lee Hannah thinks of the first times they met, full of strangers and suspicions and hate. They belonged to two different lines fighting and killing each other for their goals. As the tragic fate sets, when Lee Hannah first confronts Julio, she points a gun at him telling him to stay away from her if he doesn't want her to pull the trigger. But Julio, as soon as he looked at her resentful face, felt like dying in the hands of this beauty. It is the feeling of liberation from all these sins. "I've been waiting, do it," Julio said as he took her ready hand to pull the trigger and placed it in the center of her forehead, giving her a genuinely contented smile. If she pulls the trigger, the story is over, like a high-ranking South Korean counterterrorism force agent who has never failed in a mission. She was offered a job by PMC, a private military company specializing in special missions. This reckless girl can turn into prey on her own, so that two criminals can capture them to their hiding place. Looking innocent and attractive, they seem to be about to eat that young rabbit, but after just a few kicks, both dangerous criminals were defeated. Before the police arrived, Lee Hannah bruised their body parts in anger. She had never taken refuge in evil. She is the typical employee of the organization. Her colleague told me that she had a twin brother, who was no less skilled than her sister, and was working at South Korea's investigative ministry. And their sisterhood is really close, because they are the only relatives. The reason I mentioned him was because he was in trouble. While borrowing a close colleague's shirt to replace the two criminals' blood-stained shirts, they set out to celebrate with a meal of soju. At that moment the phone in her pocket rang, apparently Lee Hannah's younger brother, who was on a new assignment in Cambodia as a former member of the South Korean Navy's UDT. The phone number was indeed from Cambodia, but the content of the call made Lee Hannah's smile disappear in an instant. Dewey did not call her, but someone else, informing her from South Korea's National Security and Intelligence Agency that Lee Dewey was dead. She collapsed on the ground, tears in her eyes, all brought to light when the only loved one in the world whom she loved so much ceased to exist. Lee Hannah screamed in pain, her colleagues ran to her, the news shocked them. Lee Hannah misses her younger sibling. She remembers her childhood living with her younger brother in an orphanage. The two sisters loved each other very much. Once Lee Hannah was severely fined for eating all of his brother's food. Because that's what made Dui allergic, and the orphans were treated badly. Dui cried and promised to protect her older sister when she grew up. That promise didn't seem to be fulfilled. Lee Hannah's dreams about her younger brother cause her a lot of grief. Suddenly, Lee Hannah wakes up in the middle of the night, startled by a very small phone vibrating somewhere. With the keen senses of a professional agent, she searched and very quickly found an old-fashioned folding phone under a small recess under the bed. That's how Dee deliberately arranges to contact Lee Hannah when a mishap arises. It was just an old-fashioned phone. To reduce the risk of information intrusion that Dee had prepared, she understood that, and immediately picked up the phone. The signal is very weak. It seems that the call is from a very distant place and may be interrupted whenever. Lee Hannah tries to hold the phone, praying and earnestly saying to the other end of the line, "Dee, the signal is too weak, so you just need to tell me your mind." A very low and interrupted voice from the other side echoed, "Renty is a no-go zone, be careful, about to be killed." Lee Hannah picked up the phone and rushed out of the room. "Come on, Dee, don't say anything but keep in touch." It was truly the most miraculous thing Lee Hannah could have received from God so far. Dee was alive. And how long that could last, she needed to try to make sure. With all her speed, Lee Hannah picks up a bit of her luggage, keeping her composure trained for years on the battlefield to carry out the mission to rescue her younger brother. She will fly as soon as possible to Phnom Penh. On the way, she calls Taijun, her close colleague, to ask about the body Dee they received. But Taijun said they didn't find Dee, just a bomb that had exploded, before they saw the explosion. They thought Dee had stolen something from the mafia, and they took him away that way. Taijun said softly as if comforting Lee Hannah, not wanting to go into detail about what the intelligence agency had reported about the incident. But Lee Hannah didn't need to listen too closely to the reports. "Listen, Taijun, shut up, now you go to the emergency exit of Phnom Penh Airport at 9:20 a.m. local time." Lee Hannah tells him that the organization has not found Dee's body and that she will search for them on their behalf. Just a few hours later, Lee Hannah arrived in Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh. The different heat of the tropical country made her immediately tired, sweating wet. Look at this sunny and bustling scene. Our little girl is standing next to the suitcase waiting for someone to pick her up. And the branch of South Korea's National Intelligence Agency, Dee's colleague Taejun, came to pick her up, looking like they were all running over. "Where's the car?" she asks him, and Taejun's answer is that he is off today because he has some things to deal with. They needed to move back to their accommodation to avoid the heat outside. Lee Hannah followed behind him, her professional gaze flashing a little coldly as she looked at her friend ahead. In the car, Lee Hannah hands over the iPad she brought with her, telling Taejun to show him the location where he last met Dee. He showed the way, a poor village 75 kilometers from where they were now, a remote place. Taejun is worried about Lee Hannah about this trip. What does she need to look for after hearing that her brother has been murdered? Taejun warns that she will get into trouble when the organization finds out she came here on her own. But she didn't care about that. She went on to other professional questions about her brother's belongings that had last been worn, the drugs her brother was investigating and stealing, the type of car that had traveled, the people Dee had contacted. "Tell me, or I'll show you how complicated it is," she said seriously to Taejun. Taejun has no way of refusing this girl and takes her to Dee's final residence while on this mission. This room is very tidy, with little furniture, exactly where Dee used to be. Lee Hannah is sure of that. She took a look inside. "So much like you, Dee." Dee and his colleagues are investigating a new drug called KA947A, which a mafia group is trying to distribute, and it is so powerful with hallucinogenic abilities that it can easily disguise itself as a conventional medical drug. Taejun says Dee seems to want to carry out the mission alone when he comes to assist. While gathering information from Taejun, Lee Hannah stands up and draws the window curtains and turns on the TV to prevent surveillance and eavesdropping. Her head was sorting through the information she had received. Lee Hannah doesn't trust Taejun. Maybe he reported her arrival to his superiors, and she needs to keep her distance from this person and gather all the information about Doohee as quickly as possible. Lee Hannah notices the reenactment in Doohee's room, which is quite similar to his habits. But they weren't his sisters to do everything perfectly. The brands of drinks are not in sequence, the clothes hangers in the closet are not in the same direction. Lee Hannah tries to find some clue that Doohee might leave her, a clue that he usually prepares. In the bedroom, the nightlight caught her attention. Doohee had previously shown her how he hid a secret projector in the lamp. It is opened by rotating the secret switch inside. Lee Hannah tried, and found the information that her brother had prepared. The image on the wall stunned her. As such, Doohee couldn't trust anyone else and gave his sister his own signals. Lee Hannah called another branch she knew. The middle-aged man happily recognized her. Agent 1, that's her nickname. The way he jokes makes Lee Hannah always annoyed and does not want to contact. Lee Hannah sent him some information about the case, saying it was an intriguing case for him. A case about the mafia, and specifically the famous mafia boss they are always looking for, Julio Parenti of the Seoul Mafia. She had succeeded in getting the man's attention. She would get weapons, all the weapons she had used before. It was another branch of the organization she was serving, with a very romantic name, Valentine's Day. And that man got the nickname Valentine. But they are really not romantic. Their mission is very dangerous. Usually when Valentine shows up, someone will die. At a small base called the Safe House in Cambodia, guards are guarding outside. A rather wild-looking man raises his hands in surrender to avoid being shot by the guards. He wasn't worried at all, but was looking towards the motorcycle that was coming in front of him. "That one?" he asked, happy as a child when he recognized his young colleague before. Lee Hannah asks him about Logan, Valentine's name, and he is inside. While the two guards didn't understand what was happening, their boss came out to greet the two strangers. Lee Hannah shows him what Doohee left her, which is information about the mafia boss they always wanted, dangerous criminals, former FBI members, former CIA members. Lee Hannah said he wanted to save his brother, based on a hunch that Julio Parenti was involved. On the screen are those associated with Parenti. Smith and Petro are quite close to Parenti after the Chicago attacks. The unidentified Kong, introduced by Valentine, is a client of the organization, and what they will be looking for will be of value to Kong. Lee Hannah questioned whether this information was credible. Because Kong has only recently emerged as a small-scale drug dealer, Parenti rarely does such small cases. Is the person in the picture fake? Valentine further revealed that Mesa, a criminal organization in Cambodia, stole a shipment of Parenti this morning, which was a real shipment. A voice came from the door, and a stranger introduced himself as Yun Yu-song. Notice this character, with such a beautiful face and tall figure, he certainly cannot be the villain. A partner came to her like that. Lee Hannah returns to Doohee's house, looking like a jogger, sweaty. Taejun is waiting for her outside the door, impatiently. He grumbled with a very worried expression on his face about her going out without warning. As soon as he entered the room, Lee Hannah immediately pulled out a gun and pointed it at him, while he was busy talking about nonsense. Even though you and Doohee have been working together for a long time, Taejun, you should still make the right choice, Lee Hannah said firmly. The information you gave about Doohee's death is missing a lot of details. Especially in the last video with the image of Doohee, my brother broke into the house of that mafia boss, and was dragged out before the bomb exploded. If they were going to kill him, what else would they need to put his face in front of the camera? And even this video has been edited. Lee Hannah's argument silences Taejun. He tried to explain that since they had only found an unidentifiable black-clad body, they reported that it was Doohee, as the body was carrying a keychain belonging to Doohee. This did not make Lee Hannah change his outlook on the matter, coldly saying, "From today you officially become an accomplice in this case. And report to your superiors that I haven't been out of this apartment once." The negotiation was not over when an explosion sounded behind him and a bullet struck Taejun, causing him to fall motionless. Yun Yu-sung appeared with an eager expression, looking at Taejun on the floor and saying, "What a heartbreaking betrayal." While tossing her long hair, Lee Hannah said it was too early to draw conclusions about betrayal, let's wait until the end. Yun Yu-sung arrives to inform her of the location for her to go to the criminal's safe house. They will be waiting there, waiting for Parenti's actions. He has just stolen valuables and will take action soon. Yun Yu-sung propped her hand on the large displacement motorcycle that Lee Hannah leaned on, full of fascination, asking if Lee Hannah was dating anyone. Lee Hannah sped away, a look of regret in his eyes. It wasn't until evening that Lee Hannah reached the location indicated on the directions, an old cottage in the woods, Valentine's safe house, with weapons prepared for her as required. She prepares weapons, screens and loads, making sure they work well right away, which is a thoughtful preparation. Lee Hannah pulled out her phone and called Logan, asking about Yun Yu-sung. Isn't he Valentine's person? He doesn't have a badge. Logan replied that Lou was not an easy person to deal with. Lou? Who? She asked, when a cheerful smile behind her said, Edward Liu, that's my English name. Still Yun Yu-sung had appeared. Under the small candle, the two began to exchange some information. Liu said he was here because he had something to deal with Mesa. Lee Hannah's target is Parenti, and Liu is the one who will join her. Lee Hannah impatiently grabbed Yun Yu-sung's collar and asked if he was a member of Valentine's Day, but Yun Yu-sung laughed, I never admitted it. I just said I'd help you when you come to Cambodia, he said. The position in which Lee Hannah stood threatening Yun Yu-sung was indeed very sexy, and he jokingly placed his hand to caress her face slightly. Before he could protest, the phone rang. It was Logan. Mesa will arrive within 3 hours, with about 40 people, a trailer, 2 containers and 6 trucks. This route has also been followed by Parenti. Logan asked if he could cope. The question was truly absurd that she had no choice in answering or not. Lee Hannah's plan was to plant mines in the way of their convoy, sniping the tires of the guide truck. Not only to wait for Parenti to appear, but to destroy Mesa as soon as they enter the mines she buried in the ground. A convoy approached, trapped, and the second convoy was approaching and would arrive here in 6:25 minutes. It was Mesa and Parenti's group. In the dark, well-prepared, Lee Hannah succeeds in sneaking into the middle of Mesa's group of soldiers and destroys them all, with Yun Yu-sung's support. Lee Hannah was hiding in the trunk of a container, listening to the driver's call in the front cabin. He was screaming that if he had known about Parenti's shipment, he wouldn't have signed a contract. Lee Hannah had no choice but to get out of the trunk before the collision occurred. The loud noise left her stunned, her head hitting the trunk of the car and falling. Taking what little strength she had left, she pointed her gun at the approaching stranger, warning him to back off. But on the contrary, he casually walked over, without hesitation taking her hand and placing the barrel of the pistol in the center of his forehead. Lee Hannah couldn't shoot, because she saw the others approaching. Lee Hannah could only choose to feint. It was Julio, and she was held in his arms by him. Full of joy, he carried her back to base. In front of Lee Hannah, who is tied up, here is him, the handsome Julio Paterni, who lifts his jaw and asks her, who are you? Lee Hannah laughed, if you want answers, you have to take off your shirt first. Julio frowned, waiting for more explanation for that request. Lee Hannah, she didn't want to come out of the bathroom looking dirty right now. Julio immediately squeezed her chin with his hand, sneering, do you think you can get out of here alive? With his extensive experience facing dangerous criminals, Lee Hannah did not show a trembling expression, close to Julio's face, saying, are you flirting with me? I bet you need me. I need you, laughed Julio, putting 2 fingers into Lee Hannah's mouth, the other still squeezing her face and neck. At this moment, one of Julio's subordinates entered, asking him why he hadn't killed the bound girl. Julio calmly says that she wants to kill him, so he is planning to kill her, but is also trying to have sex with her. Parenti's subordinates whined again, "Please withdraw that intention, lest." He spoke in Italian so Lee Hannah couldn't understand it, but there was something quite strange about the situation that she couldn't guess. It is important to escape, cannot wait for this handsome guy to kill Lee Hannah by very expertly cutting the bonds behind his back. At this point Julio's subordinates came forward to tell him that they would neatly handle the girl they had just captured. Lee Hannah got up and grabbed his gun, fired one shot into the ceiling, bang, and used the rope that had just bound her to hold onto the subordinate's neck. Lee Hannah has no intention of running away. She tells Julio that she came here to see him because she wants to trade. If Julio helps her, then she will help him catch his imposter. It seems that the beauty will make sense to say anything, and she temporarily succeeds in getting Julio's attention. Early the next morning, local police arrived at the scene, and Lou handed a police manager a bundle of money, saying they were drug criminals, clean them up and they would be rewarded. Before the police confiscated everything, Lou rummaged through the pockets of the leader of Mesa's delivery group this time, using his finger to unlock the phone he used to call before being knocked out. "You're coming slower than I thought." The familiar sound of footsteps made Taijin recognized by Lou without turning his head to look. Since shooting him, Lou has only seen him again. "Why don't you tell me Dui and Lee Hannah are twins?" Lou questioned Taijun. Taijun explains that Lee Hannah was just a civilian who came to find out about her brother's death. That's not a convincing explanation for Lou, an adept. The barrel of the gun in Lou's hand is directed at Taijun menacingly. In response to Taijun's question, "Are you interested in her?" Lou said, "She's an attractive woman, and so I'm going to change my plans a bit." At this time at the base, Julio stood looking out the window thoughtfully. "You want to find the person impersonating me?" "Too late, my snipers took out all of Mesa's guys." Lee Hannah tried to convince him, "My brother tracked down the imposter, so if you can help me, we can find out who's behind it." "Your brother?" said Parenti in surprise. "I heard that you ordered an attack on a Korean agent, and it happened to be my brother. The best way now is probably to be honest, and Lee Hannah chose it." "So isn't he dead?" "No, she's alive," Lee Hannah said, "and that's why I reached out to him, to confirm that he didn't kill him." Julio laughed, unbuttoned his shirt, ordered his subordinates to do some things, and his subordinate Romando brought a glass of red wine, saying, "Here, drink it and let Lorenzo go." "Just drink that and you'll let me go?" Lee Hannah questioned or asked. "You're the one who asked me to take my shirt off. Why don't you trust me?" Julio sneered. With a kick that causes Lorenzo to fall towards Julio, Lee Hannah snatches the wine glass from Romando's hand and takes a deep breath, much to Julio's satisfaction. Immediately her eyes wobbled and fell asleep, Julio once again catching her. Julio ordered his subordinates to call a doctor and instruct them to take care of her carefully, his eyes both concerned and aroused. Lee Hannah was now sleeping soundly in his firm arms.